Hello, everyone, and a very warm welcome to another lesson. In this lesson, we are going to learn about IELTS Speaking Test Part 1. Our topic is going out. Going out. Now, in this lesson, we are going to look at some questions that you're likely to get if you're planning to sit for your IELTS Speaking Test Part 1. And we are also going to look at some sample answers. Let us begin. Question 1. Do you often go out in the evenings? Do you often go out in the evenings? Now, when the examiner asks, do you often go out in the evenings? What the examiner wants to know is how many times per week, per month, do you go out in the evenings? Remember, to go out is to spend some time outside of your house enjoying yourself, okay? Is to go out in the evening, for example, to have some drinks with your friends for dinner, to go to the movies, for example, to go bowling, for example. So this is what the examiner wants to know, or maybe to go clubbing, okay? All these are some of the activities that you could engage in when you go out in the evenings. You can go clubbing, you can go partying with your friends, you can go to places where you can listen to, for example, house music. You can go to have a meal with your friends, have dinner, all sorts of activities that you do in the evening for entertainment or for leisure. All these are going out activities. So the examiner wants to know, how often do you go out in the evenings? How many times in 1 week? How many times in a month? Okay, how often? Now, you may answer this question by saying, when the examiner says, do you often go out in the evenings? Not really. I no longer go out as often as I used to when I was younger. Nowadays, I go out for a meal or for drinks with friends on monthly basis. Not really. I no longer go out as often as I used to when I was younger. Nowadays, I go out for a meal or for drinks with friends on monthly basis. Now, in that answer, you have not only pointed out to the examiner that you do not go out very often, but you have also indicated that you do that on monthly basis. Monthly basis means once a month. Okay? So you have indicated that you no longer go out as often as you used to when you were younger. So when you were younger, you used to go out more often, maybe once a week. But now that you're older, you do not go out as often as you used to. And when you go out for a meal, for example, a dinner, and also you go for drinks with your friends. Like, for example, you go to a bar, maybe you go to a cocktail bar and have a few drinks with your friends, okay? The idea is to ensure that you provide a detailed answer, okay? Provide a detailed answer. And what does that mean? Provide at least 2 to 3 points for each question, 2 to 3 answers, 2 to 3 ideas in each of your answers. And you can join your ideas together using connectors, or what we call linking words, okay? Or, for example, okay, I go out for a meal or for drinks. But the other thing that it is really very essential that you do is you try and use intonation when you're speaking, okay? And what does that mean? It means that you lower your voice or you raise your voice whenever it is necessary to try and capture the emotions that you're trying to put across when you're giving your answers. Okay? So when the examiner says, "Do you often go out in the evenings?" Not really. I no longer go out as often as I used to when I was younger. Nowadays, I go out for a meal or for drinks with friends on monthly basis. Okay? Now, let's move on to question 2. What do you like to do when you go out? What do you like to do when you go out? Now, in that question, the examiner wants to know what sort of activities do you engage in? What sort of activities do you do when you go out? What sort of things do you actually do when you go out in the evenings? Okay? What do you like to do when you go out? Now, you may answer that question by saying, let's look at sample answer 2. Whenever I go out, I enjoy eating out in one of my favorite Japanese restaurants. I do also enjoy going to a jazz club to listen to a live jazz band playing and drinking cocktails with my friends. Whenever I go out, I enjoy eating out in one of my favorite Japanese restaurants. I do also enjoy going to a jazz club to listen to a live jazz band playing and drinking cocktails with my friends. Okay, now in that answer, you have provided a number of things. You have explained a number of the things that you like to do when you go out. Okay, you enjoy eating out in one of your favorite Japanese restaurants. That's number 1. You also enjoy going to a jazz club, and you do that because you love to listen to a live jazz band playing. And finally, you also like to go for cocktails with your friends, okay? For cocktails with your friends. Now, what you notice that in that answer, I have used several sentence structures, and the examiner will be expecting you to use a number of sentence structures in English. Remember, we have 3 types of sentence structures, that is simple, complex, and compound, okay? So, like for example, in the first sentence, I have used a simple sentence because it has only one verb. Actually, there are 2 verbs, so that would mean it is a compound sentence. And then the last sentence is a complex sentence. I do also enjoy going to a jazz club to listen to a live jazz band playing and drinking cocktails with my friends. Now, remember, you can join your ideas together using linking words, like for example, also, or, and, okay? Now, so ensure that when you're giving your answer to the examiner, that you also use a variety of sentence structures in your answers. If you're not very familiar with the different types of sentence structures that we have in English, feel free to have a look at my playlist on grammar. I have a video that is called the 3 types of sentences in English, and that should help you to know how to construct the 3 types of sentences and also how to join them together. Okay? All right then, let's move on to question 3. Do you prefer going out on your own or with friends? Do you prefer going out on your own or with friends? Now, what the examiner wants to know is whenever you choose to go out, okay, when you choose to go and when you choose to go for cocktails, when you choose to go for dinner, when you choose to go to the movies, for example, do you like to go on your own or do you like to invite some friends to come along? Okay, that's what the examiner wants to know. Now, you can answer that question by saying, when the examiner asks, do you prefer going out on your own or with friends? I would rather go out with my friends than on my own because that is the only time that I get to see them and catch up on what is going on in their lives. I would rather go out with my friends than on my own, because that is the only time that I get to see them and catch up on what is going on in their lives. Okay? Now, in that answer, you have pointed out that you prefer to go out with friends, okay, than on your own. But also you have provided some reasons as to why you prefer to go out with your friends. And that is, it's the only time that you get to see them, okay? And secondly, that is the only time that you get to catch up, okay? To catch up means to find out the latest activities or the latest news on what is going on in their personal lives. So ensure that you always provide a detailed answer. And how you would know that your answer is detailed, ensure that you have at least 2 to 3 points for each answer, and then join your answers together using connectors. Like, for example, in that sentence, I have used because and have also used and. Okay? Now, let's move on to question 4. How often do you go out in a week? How often do you go out in a week? Now, what the examiner wants to know in this question is, how many times in a week, how many times in 7 days do you go out? How often? Is it once a week? Is it twice a week? Is it 3 times a week? Is it every day of the week? How often do you go out in a week? Now, you may answer this question by saying, sample answer 4. Once a week, and that is often on Friday evening after a hectic week to let off some steam and unwind. So when the examiner asks, how often do you go out in a week? Once a week, and that is often on Friday evening after a hectic week to let off some steam and unwind. So in that answer, you have provided the direct answer, which is once a week, but you have also pointed out on which day of the week you actually do go out, and that is on Friday evening. And you have provided some reasons as to why you do that. And that is because you want to let off some steam. To let off some steam is to get rid of stress, okay? After you've worked for 5 days, you're probably very tired, and not just physically, but also mentally. So when you go out, you kind of let off some steam. You let off the stress that you have built up in the course of the working week, okay? So to let off steam means to distress, to get rid of the stress that you have built up. So once a week, and that is often on Friday evening after a hectic week to let off some steam and unwind. Unwind means to distress, okay? To unwind is to distress. Okay, now let's move on to the last question. Where do most young people like to go out in your country? Where do most young people like to go out in your country? Now, in that question, the examiner wants to know, in your country, to which places do young people like to go and hang out? Okay, in your own country, where do the young people like to go and hang out or let off some steam? In which places do they like to go? Okay, where do they like to go? Okay, now you may answer that question by saying, when the examiner asks you, where do most young people like to go out in your country? Majority of them like to go clubbing, bowling, or to eat with their friends in fast food restaurants. I see a lot of them going to the movies too. Majority of them like to go clubbing, bowling, or to eat with their friends in fast food restaurants. I see a lot of them going to the movies too. Majority of them like to go clubbing, bowling, or to eat with their friends in fast food restaurants. I see a lot of them going to the movies too. Okay, now in that answer, you have indicated where majority of the young people in your country like to go, and that is they like to go clubbing. To go clubbing is basically to go to clubs where you listen to music, dance, okay, have some drinks with your friends, bowling, okay, and then to eat with your friends in fast food restaurants. And then I have also indicated that a lot of them also like to go to the movies. So I have clubbing, bowling, eating with their friends, and going to the movies. Again, here, the answer is detailed, okay? Now, this brings me to the last part of our lesson. And in this last part of our lesson, I'm just going to give you a few tips, just to summarize a few tips that will really help you in your IELTS speaking test. Tip number 1, ensure that you do not provide yes or no answers, okay? Do not use slang language, like for example, wanna, okay? I wanna go to, okay? Do not use slang language, okay? Number 3, ensure that you use a variety of sentence structures in your answers. Number 4, ensure that you use intonation. You know, when you're speaking, raise your voice and lower your voice, and that should reflect what it is that you're saying. For example, when you want to emphasize something or when you want to show excitement about something, okay? And the next thing that will help you a lot is ensure that you use the correct vocabulary for each topic that you are being asked about. For example, if your question is about going out, ensure that you use the correct vocabulary. Like, for example, going out for a meal, going out for drinks with friends, okay? Eating out, okay? Favorite restaurants, jazz, going to a jazz club, a live jazz band, drinking cocktails with friends, okay? Catching up with friends, seeing them, okay? Friday evening, hectic week, let off some steam, go unwind. Remember, the whole idea behind going out is really just to let off some steam, enjoy yourself and unwind. Words like clubbing, bowling, okay? Fast food restaurants, going to the movies, all these are words and phrases that are very typical to the topic going out. So ensure that you use the correct vocabulary, okay? And now I'm going to read for you the questions, and as I read the questions, please try and think of an answer, okay? Shall we start? Brilliant. Question 1. Do you often go out in the evenings? What do you like to do when you go out? Do you prefer going out on your own or with friends? How often do you go out in a week? Where do most young people like to go out in your country? Now, I hope that you are able to answer most of those questions correctly, or all the questions correctly. Now, if you had a few problems here and there answering some of those questions, do not worry at all, because you have your sample answers. You can review the sample answers and keep practicing. Remember, practice makes perfect. The more you practice, the easier it gets, okay? Now, if you found this lesson useful, then subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and share the video with anybody that you think will benefit from it. Remember, sharing is caring. Now, thank you very much for watching, and see you in our next lesson. Bye-bye.